They filmed a third of Back to the Future with the wrong actor. 5 weeks in, millions spent, and they scrapped everything and started over.
Not all that talk about screwing up future events, the space-time continuum.
How did it become the most perfectly written film ever made? That's even crazier than time travel itself. These are 9 happy accidents that made Back to the Future iconic. Number 9. Okay, so here's the insane part. Back to the Future was actually filmed twice. The version you know and love, that's version 2. The original Marty McFly was Eric Stoltz, a serious method actor who'd just come off doing Mask, a heavy drama. And he approached Back to the Future the same way, as a serious character study about a teenager displaced in time. Problem is, Back to the Future isn't a drama. It's a comedy adventure with heart. The footage of Stoltz as Marty still exists, and it's uncomfortable. He's intense where Michael J. Fox is charming, he's brooding where Fox is energetic. And after 5 weeks of filming, after spending over $4 million, Zemeckis and the producers realized they had a massive problem.
So I had to make this horrific decision, which was very heartbreaking for everybody. But luckily, I was able to convince the studio to let me reshoot 5 weeks of work.
They'd shot a third of the movie, and they had to scrap it all and start over. Think about that pressure. You've finally convinced a studio to make your movie after years of rejection. You're 5 weeks into production, and you have to say, we cast the wrong guy. We need to start from scratch. Most movies would have been canceled, but they believed in the script so deeply that they did something almost unheard of. They recast the lead and started over. Michael J. Fox was their first choice all along, but he was locked into his TV show Family Ties. They worked out an insane schedule where Fox would film Family Ties during the day and Back to the Future at night.
My first choice for the part wasn't available because he was in a TV show. So Eric is a really good actor, and I made the decision to put him in the movie.
He was sleeping about 2 hours a night for months, and it worked. Because the script was so tight, so perfectly constructed, that with the right actor, everything clicked into place. Have you ever noticed the Eric Stoltz footage floating around online? Number 8. Now let's talk about why film schools obsess over this script. There's this one detail that casual viewers completely miss, but once you notice it, you realize how insanely meticulous the writing is. At the beginning, Marty meets Doc at Twin Pines Mall. When he goes back to 1955, he crashes into Mr. Peabody's property, which Peabody calls his pine tree farm.
I remember when this was all farmland as far as the eye could see. Old man Peabody owned all of this. He had this crazy idea about breeding pine trees.
Marty runs over one of the pine trees while escaping. When Marty returns to 1985, the mall is now called Lone Pine Mall. This detail isn't pointed out. Nobody draws attention to it. It's just there in the background for eagle-eyed viewers to catch. And it's beautiful because it shows the movie respects your intelligence. It trusts you to notice the timeline has changed in small ways, not just the obvious ones. And yeah, some people catch this on first watch. Most don't notice until someone points it out. Number 7. There's this brilliant screenwriting trick in Back to the Future that modern movies have completely forgotten. It's about how information gets delivered to both the characters and the audience without feeling forced. The Clock Tower pamphlet. Marty's walking through town in 1985. Not paying attention. Some lady tries to give him a Save the Clock Tower pamphlet. He's not interested. Who cares about some old building? But Jennifer takes the pamphlet and writes "I love you" on the back along with her grandma's phone number. So Marty keeps this pamphlet for a completely different reason. He keeps it because his girlfriend wrote him a love note on it. Think about how many things this one piece of paper is doing. It's establishing the clock tower exists.
Mayor Wilson is sponsoring an initiative to replace that clock. 30 years ago, lightning struck that clock tower and the clock hasn't run since.
It's telling you the clock tower was struck by lightning on a specific date. It's showing you Marty and Jennifer's relationship. It's giving Jennifer something to do in the scene. And it's planting the solution to a problem that won't exist for another 40 minutes of screen time. Most screenwriters would panic at this point. How do we make sure the audience remembers this pamphlet? They'd have Marty look at it again. They'd have Doc mention the clock tower. They'd do a close-up. But Gale and Zemeckis did something smarter. They made you forget about it completely. Later, when he's stuck in 1955 and desperate to convince Doc they need to get back, he pulls out the pamphlet to show the "I love you" note, proving he has someone waiting for him. But when he flips it around, Doc sees the clock tower side and realizes, we know exactly when and where lightning will strike. Doc doesn't say, "Wait, what was that?" Marty doesn't repeat himself. They just see it. understand it, and move on.
This is it. This is the answer. It says here that a bolt of lightning is going to strike the clock tower at precisely 10:04 p.m. next Saturday night.
The whole exchange takes maybe 15 seconds, but it unlocks the entire third act. Compare that to how modern movies would handle it. Marty would pull out the pamphlet. Doc would miss it. Marty would say, "Wait, Doc, look at this." Doc would squint at it. Marty would explain what it means. Doc would go, "Great Scott, do you know what this means?" And then he'd explain it again for anyone in the audience who still wasn't following. That's the difference between trusting your audience and treating them like idiots. This is genius-level writing. The solution to the movie's central problem is established in Act 1, kept relevant through emotional reasons, and then revealed organically without anyone saying, "Wait, can you repeat what you just said?" Which is exactly what a lazy modern movie would do. Screenwriting teachers call this elegant plotting. Everything serves multiple purposes. Nothing is wasted, and the audience feels smart for keeping up instead of talked down to. The script trusts you to keep up, and that respect for the audience is what makes it timeless. Number 6. The film opens with all those clocks in Doc Brown's lab. And this isn't just set decoration. Every single detail is doing work. Those clocks? They immediately tell you Doc is obsessed with time. One shows a little man hanging from a clock hand. That's Harold Lloyd from Safety Last, foreshadowing Doc hanging from the Hill Valley clock tower later. The news clippings about plutonium theft? Set up for the Libyans. The burned mansion visible through the window? Establishes he'd lost his fortune. The burrito dog food opening automatically? Shows Doc has a dog named Einstein before you see him. So when Einstein gets in the DeLorean later, you already accept it. Every single thing in that opening. The clocks, the news clippings, the dog food. It all pays off later. Then Marty shows up, and in one scene we learn he's late, he's got a band audition. He trusts Doc completely, and he's comfortable in this chaos, establishing their friendship without explaining it. This is economical writing. Every line, every prop, every visual does multiple jobs. It reveals character, advances plot, sets up payoffs, and entertains you all at once. Modern movies, even the awesome ones, usually have at least a couple scenes that just don't need to be there. Back to the Future? Zero filler.
And a filmmaker can see the work of a director and read a screenplay and kind of imagine what that movie might look like. So he always understood what the movie was.
Number 5. Comedian John Mulaney has this bit about Back to the Future that accidentally reveals why the script works so brilliantly. He talks about how insane it is that the movie never explains how a 17-year-old became best friends with a disgraced nuclear physicist, and we all just accepted it. They never explain it. Not even in a lazy way like, "Hey, remember when we met in the science building?" They don't even do that, and we were all fine with it. This violates the basic screenwriting rule of establish everything.
It's a very weird movie. Marty McFly is a 17-year-old high school student whose best friend is a disgraced nuclear physicist.
But it proves a more important rule. Audiences will accept anything if the characters believe it. Marty and Doc's friendship is shown, not told. You see the trust, the affection, the history, and how they interact. Doc doesn't talk down to Marty. Marty genuinely cares when Doc's in danger. Their dynamic feels so lived in that your brain doesn't question it. Modern screenwriters would have added a flashback, some explicit origin story. But Back to the Future just says, these two are friends. Deal with it. And we do. Because the script earns it through character moments instead of exposition. Same thing with the whole Marty accidentally becomes his mom's crush situation.
Oh, I guess they call you Cal.
No, actually, people call me Marty.
On paper, that premise sounds insane, but the movie handles it with such charm and innocence that it becomes one of cinema's most beloved plots. That's the magic. It does things that should not work and makes them work brilliantly. Drop a comment with a recent movie that trusted the audience versus one that held your hand too much. Number 4. Now that you've seen how genius this script is, here's the part that'll make you angry. Back to the Future was rejected 44 times. Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis spent years trying to get this made. Disney rejected it because the mom makes out with son plot was too inappropriate. Other studios didn't understand the scientist friendship. One executive literally asked, "Can't we make it about stopping the Kennedy assassination?" You can kind of see their point. Imagine the pitch. There's this high schooler whose best friend is a disgraced nuclear physicist. We're not explaining how they met. And they build a time machine. And the kid accidentally goes back and his mom falls in love with him.
What a strange movie to sell to be a family movie. Two guys had to go in and do that. They had to be like, okay, we got an idea.
Yeah, that sounds insane. But here's what those 44 executives missed. Gale and Zemeckis had created what film professors now call economical writing perfection. They couldn't see past the weird premise to recognize the structural brilliance, and this makes the Eric Stoltz disaster even more significant. After 44 rejections, they finally got the green light. Then they cast it wrong, and they still had to convince the studio to let them start over. The fact that this movie exists at all is a miracle. Number 3. Here's a wild fact. There was originally a scene that gave the film a completely different theme. In earlier drafts, Marty wasn't just a good kid running late. He was kind of a screw-up, exactly how Principal Strickland describes him. There's a deleted scene where Marty, bored in class, literally destroys school property.
This so-called Dr. Brown is dangerous. He's a real nutcase. You hang around with him, you're going to end up in big trouble.
Oh, yes, sir.
You've got a real attitude problem, McFly. You're a slacker.
The theme was going to be about taking responsibility for your actions. Marty would learn that choices have consequences. When he returned to 1985, he would have changed, matured, but they cut it. In the final film, Marty doesn't really arc. He's a good kid at the beginning and end. His family changes. Doc changes. George changes. But Marty, pretty much the same. But here's the counter-argument. Maybe Marty doesn't need to change. He's the stable center of chaos. He's the audience's eyes. His job isn't to have an arc. It's to cause arcs in everyone else. They chose charm and momentum over conventional structure. And it worked. Number 2. So, get this. Back to the Future was not supposed to have sequels. That "to be continued" at the end, that wasn't in the original release. That was added later after the movie became a phenomenon. The original ending had Doc showing up, saying there's something wrong with your kids, and flying off. That was it.
Assholes or something?
No, Marty. Both you and Jennifer turn out fine. It's your kids, Marty. Something has got to be done about your kids.
A fun, open-ended moment, not a setup for Part 2. The writers literally painted themselves into a corner with that ending. Robert Zemeckis said in interviews he regretted putting Jennifer in the car because it meant Part 2 had to deal with her, and they had no idea what to do with her character. That's why she gets knocked out for most of the sequel. They wrote themselves into a problem and had to write themselves out. But the movie made so much money that Universal demanded sequels. And here's where it gets interesting. Instead of just cranking out a cash grab sequel, Zemeckis and Gale did something kind of insane. They went back and watched the first film like detectives looking for clues. They made a list of every single throwaway line, every background detail, every moment that could possibly be expanded. Doc's line about the sports almanac? Check. The ravine mentioned once? Check. The make like a tree saying Biff screws up? Check. Even the hoverboard.
It's leave, you idiot. Make like a tree and leave. You sound like a damn fool when you say it wrong.
In the original script, Marty uses a wooden crate on wheels to escape. They turned that into the iconic hoverboard for Part 2. Zemeckis and Gale went back through the first film with a microscope and found every detail they could expand. Doc's throwaway line about bringing a sports almanac back? That becomes the entire plot of Part 2. The ravine mentioned in passing? Part 3 explains why it changes from Clayton Ravine to Eastwood Ravine. And they didn't just reference the first movie. They wove parts 2 and 3 together so tightly that you can't really watch one without the other. Part 2 ends with Marty stranded in 1955, after seeing Doc accidentally get sent to 1885. Part 3 picks up at that exact second, showing Marty running back to find the 1955 version of Doc. They're basically one long movie split in half. The recycled lines, the same locations, the same characters. Everything just falls into place by the end.
Whoa, wait a minute. Doc, are you trying to tell me that my mother has got the hots for me?
Precisely.
Parts 2 and 3 were filmed simultaneously, allowing them to plan callbacks across both films with incredible precision. This was super rare in 1989. The only other major franchise that had tried shooting sequels back-to-back was Superman 2 and 3, and that was a disaster. But Zemeckis convinced Universal to give him a blank check and shoot both films at once over a year-long production. The budget was $80 million total, massive for the time. There's even a visual motif. In all 3 films, Doc and Marty walk back and forth into the foreground and background while discussing their plan. Same staging each time. It's such a subtle thing that most people never consciously notice it, but your brain recognizes the pattern. It makes the trilogy feel cohesive, like it was always meant to be 3 parts. And there's this visual thing they do in all 3 films. Doc and Marty walking back and forth in the frame while discussing the plan. Same staging every time. It's subtle, but once you notice it, you can't unsee it. Marty says, "Nobody calls me chicken" in all 3 movies.
Nobody calls me
chicken.
Biff's "make like a tree" line gets corrected across timelines. Even little visual gags repeat, like someone always crashes into the courthouse. These aren't just callbacks. They're structural echoes that make the whole thing feel like one complete story. The fact that unplanned sequels became this tightly integrated shows how deeply they understood their material. Most trilogies feel like they're making it up as they go along. Back to the Future feels like it was meticulously planned from day one. The fact that it wasn't, that's what makes it genius. Number 1. Back to the Future is taught in virtually every film school as the example of tight storytelling. When professors want to show no wasted scenes, they screen this. When they demonstrate setup and payoff, visual foreshadowing, organic exposition, it's always Back to the Future. One student confirmed, "In film school, it's taught as the basic formula for story arc." What makes it special? It doesn't feel like homework. It's wildly entertaining. Kids love it. Adults love it. Film nerds love it. People who don't care about movies love it. That's the holy grail. Structure so tight it's invisible. Creativity so natural it feels effortless.
You heard her. She said, get your meat hooks. Please.
Every scene justifies itself. The skateboard chase? Payoff when he invents it in 1955. The slacker insult? Payoff when George punches Biff. Marty's band being too loud? Set up for shredding at the dance. Einstein in the DeLorean? Establishes danger before Marty tries it. Even jokes do double duty. 1.21 gigawatts is funny, but also establishes the massive power requirement that becomes the central problem. This separates good from great. A good movie entertains you. A great movie entertains you while doing 10 other things you don't notice. What's another movie you think has a perfect script with zero wasted scenes? I want to know what else belongs in this conversation. So let's bring this full circle, which is exactly what Back to the Future does. This movie that film schools worship, it was rejected 44 times. It was cast wrong and refilmed. It had no planned sequels. It did things that shouldn't work. Unexplained friendships, time paradoxes, incest-adjacent plots. And somehow it became one of the most beloved, most studied, most perfectly constructed films in history.
You know, there's something I haven't told you about the night we made that
Please,
tape.
Marty, don't tell me. No man should know too much about his own destiny.
You don't understand.
I do understand. If I know too much about my own future, I can endanger my own existence. Just as you've endangered yours.
Decades later, people still catch new details on their 20th rewatch. Still noticing the clocks foreshadowing the clock tower. Still realizing Lone Pine Mall represents a changed timeline. It will never get old. Because true craftsmanship doesn't age. Whether you're watching in 1985, 2015, or 2025, the script still works flawlessly. Robert Zemeckis owns the rights and has said there will never be a remake while he's alive. And honestly, good. This is one of those rare perfect things that doesn't need to be touched. But if you're a creator trying to make something great, study this film, because it's a masterclass in why every choice matters. Maybe someday someone will crack the code again. But until then, Back to the Future remains the gold standard. The textbook example of how to write a script so perfect, it survives rejection, recasting disasters, and time itself. Before you go, drop a comment telling me what other movie you think deserves to be in the perfect script conversation.